The year is 2010. A new era begins. Can you shape the world order?
Hey, it's Adam, welcome to Weekly Game Night, and today I'm gonna show you one hell of a game, World Order from Hegemonic Project Games. This one's been on my radar for ages and now you can find it on Kickstarter. As usual, the link is down in the description, so definitely go check it out, it's worth it. I'm also proud to say that this video is sponsored by Hegemonic Project Games. Huge thanks to them, and I've got all the info you need. Game presentation, rules breakdown and my modest opinion after giving this game some good testing. Before we start, I'd be honored if you subscribe to Weekly Game Night and hit those like buttons. Thank you very much. Okay, and now let's dive in. Published by Hegemonic Project Games and designed by Vangelis Bagiartakis and Varnavas Timoteou, World Order is a strategic competitive area control game where 2 to 4 players step into the roles of global superpowers. Set in the 2010s, it captures the era's shifting geopolitics, pitting the United States, China, Russia and the European Union against each other as they vie for control of the world. Each faction has its unique strengths, strategic assets and allies, mirroring their actual global position. Such asymmetry calls for a unique approach and opens the door to discovering your own path. The game's mechanics blend deck building and area control, enabling players to expand their influence through economic investments, military presence and diplomatic alliances, all while adapting to rivals' moves. Each decision builds toward a larger strategy of securing dominance across key global regions. In World Order, control of regions is crucial. Players earn influence cubes that represent their nation's foothold in key areas. In addition to points scored throughout the game, major scoring occurs twice, after rounds 3 and 6. Controlling regions is essential as most points are gained through dominance in these areas. But to expand your sphere of influence, a strong economy is a must. This is where improving domestic production, gaining new allies and trading, both with allies and other players, becomes crucial for acquiring resources not available in your own market. With multiple pathways to victory, whether through diplomacy, economic power or military might, World Order challenges you to shape the balance of power and claim your place at the top of a new global hierarchy. So now that you know what World Order is all about, let's dive into how the game is played. The game runs over 6 rounds, with scoring happening after round 3 and 6, and at the end we find out who is the winner. Before we get started, let's check out the setup. In the center, you have a world map divided into 7 regions, and each of these regions falls under the influence of at least one superpower. These are the regions where you'll be fighting for control, represented by influence cubes, and where your armies will show your presence and military strength. Each region has a deck of country cards that could become your allies, not for free of course, you have to pay the cost with the diplomacy points. You place your new allies in your tableau, and in many cases you will be able to use them to help pay for even more allies or to gain extra action cards. But more on that later. Next to the board, you will see 2 decks, the growth cards and the market of ability cards. And finally, here's player's tableau. I'm playing as the People's Republic of China. You know, a lot of phones, not much oil, so-called sleeping giant and amazing wonton. But let's get down to business. Your tableau shows the level of your production of 3 primary resources, 4 secondary resources, your national focus, available resources, armies, which by the way you can also sell, and finally your prestige. Nearby we have the action deck, trade cards and strategic assets cards. And that's it for the setup. The game's 6 rounds are divided into 3 main phases: preparation, action and aftermath. First up we have the preparation phase. In this phase, each player draws 6 action cards, then players starting with the lowest victory points decide the turn order. Next, everyone produces their 3 primary resources: energy, raw materials, and food. Lastly, you choose one national focus for that round. Depending on this choice, you will get different actions, including producing secondary resources like diplomacy, services, consumer goods, or army units, as well as some passive abilities. Next, we move smoothly into the action phase, the main phase of the game. In turn order, each player will take actions such as playing a one-time use strategic resource card, passing to earn 10 coins, or playing an action card. Actions and cards are divided into 4 types: diplomatic, economic, military, and domestic. Each type allows for 2 different actions. Diplomatic actions let you acquire allies from a specific region or add an influence cube to a region. When adding cubes, you can place them either in the top permanent influence row or the bottom temporary row, each of which gets you victory points. After all spaces are filled, you can place dice in the temporary row, and when you do, you get rid of the first cube in the row. Then we have trade actions, where you can export and import goods from your allies and other players. The price of these goods can be found on this handy chart, with armies and services being the priciest. Well, such is life. The second trade action lets you invest in allies with foreign direct investments, aka FDIs, which also add an influence cube to the board. Military actions allow you to build bases in allied countries, adding influence cubes to the region, or to move your armies across the map. After all, to spread the right perspective, you need to project a little power. The last type of actions are domestic. These let you produce resources or buy a growth card to gain some new abilities and victory points. When each player has played 4 cards, we move to the research step. Here, players can use research points from any remaining cards and help from allies to buy new action cards to strengthen their deck. That's how deck building works in this game. After the action phase, we head into the aftermath. Here you can boost your prosperity, get returns on your investments, but most importantly, bring in your armies. Each region falls under the influence of at least one superpower. For example, Central Asia over here is influenced by both Russia and China. If an opposing player has more armies in a region that's in your sphere of influence, you lose 2 victory points for each one, so keeping a balance of both economic and military power is key. After rounds 3 and 6, we'll score all regions with a filled permanent influence track. That's the row above the line. For each region, players count their influence cubes and get points according to the board scoring. Quick note, ties are decided by the number of armies. But that's not all. You see these 3 tokens over here? Points from them go to the players with the most money, armies, and allied country cards. After 6 rounds of intense gameplay, it's time to establish New World Order, or to see who wins the game. And if you are playing with fewer than 4 players, then you're gonna use these automa cards that will show you where each round you're gonna place cubes, influence cubes, and armies of the missing faction. Quick and effective. And now that you know how to play World Order, it's time to answer the most important question. Is the game worth getting? Well, let's find out. Alright, time for my thoughts on the game. Now, for those of you who are short on time, feel free to skip ahead to my final verdict. But if you've got a few minutes, stick around. I'm going to dive into World Order, a game that's fully taken over my life these past few weeks. World Order simulates international relations and high-level geopolitical strategy. It takes us back to 2010, letting players step into the shoes of a superpower, whether it's the USA, China, the European Union, or yes, Russia. And about Russia, let me address this real quick. After my last video, I got comments like, "Hey, you can play as Russia in this game, so it's bad and you are dumb." Listen, settle down, it's a major political game, and yes, Russia is a superpower. Let's leave it at that. World Order comes with the World Order Concepts book, an introduction to international relations edited by 5 PhDs in political science. That's some serious stuff. And you can see the level of work that went into accurately simulating the global balance of power. Thanks to all this research, each faction's strengths and weaknesses feel authentic. China has massive production power, the EU is great at diplomacy, and the United States and Russia are military strongholds. Each country also has unique strategic assets cards and production values for different resources. Then we've got this range of country cards representing our potential allies. Though some countries won't ally with just anyone, for example, Iran won't team up with the United States. And only a few countries will let you build military bases there, which are key for gaining access to new regions. All of this adds up to a lot of asymmetry, not quite like in Hegemony though. Here everyone's playing the same game, but with each faction having unique advantages, a distinct map position and specific allies. Each game is a new journey where you can rewrite global history and write the future as well. It's also about finding your own path. You've got the tools like economic growth, military power and diplomacy, all of which you can combine on your path to victory. I tried a new path with every game and it worked. You don't have to stick to one strategy for any faction, and guess what? Despite this asymmetry, the game is super balanced. After playing multiple times, I'm pretty sure that every faction has an equal shot at winning. In World Order, player interaction is introduced in a really cool way. There is not much direct like in-your-face interaction, no over-the-table game. Sometimes you can snag a country or action card another player wanted, but indirect interaction? My oh my. Every move you make on the world map impacts other players' decisions and actions. Say you place your army in a region contested by two other players, tipping the balance in your favor. You're putting them in a position where they have to react or lose points. Same goes for influence cubes. This is exactly what I would expect from a game about global influence. And now, the single best thing about World Order is its simple yet elegant rules. The depth comes not from a ton of complex rules, but from the decisions and the changing board situation. Capturing international relations in such an accessible way is a huge achievement by the designers. Unlike GMT or coin games, World Order manages to give you that feel of global competition without being too complex, and give you the feeling of playing board game, which makes it accessible to most players. A big win in my book for sure. Thanks to its mature theme and straightforward but well-crafted mechanics, World Order really captures the essence of international relations. Each game tells a new story, and it's also a game of finding your own path, letting each faction grow in sometimes unexpected ways, like the notorious European Union army. Anyone? Mechanics-wise, this is an area control game where you score regions after rounds 3 and 6. There is a great twist though. Each region has two influence tracks. The top track is permanent, giving fewer points per cube, but cubes stay there till the end of the game. The bottom track is temporary and by mid-game becomes a tug of war, since every new cube added pushes another player's cube off. It's awesome, you have to play smart to keep your cubes in place while bumping your opponents out. Another mechanic I love is deck building. We start all with the same action deck, but after each round, 2 cards remain in hand, generating research points for new cards. You can even pay for cards by tapping allied countries. And speaking of which, allies play a huge role. They let you place influence cubes, give access to military bases, and provide discounts on card purchases and gaining new allies. It's not only super fun, but also thematically spot on. And here is a note for those playing with fewer than 4 people. Even though 4 is probably the ideal player count, not like in Hegemony, World Order works perfectly well with fewer players. I probably wouldn't play it with 2, but it's great with 3. The automated faction works well, simulating the influence and armies for missing faction. And best of all, the automa management takes practically no time. Visually, World Order keeps up the quality set by Hegemony. The game board is clear and helps you track the global situation. And thanks to the beautiful illustrations by my fellow countryman Miłosz Wojtasik, it has a great atmosphere. The wooden resource and tank tokens are fantastic, and for fans of plastic there is a campaign option to add plastic tanks, so if you are into T-90s or Abrams tanks, you will love it. I will probably stick with the wood, but hey, to each their own. Oh, and it comes with an insert that neatly fits all the components. Nice. Now what about downsides? None. Nah, just kidding. There are a few small things. The cost of some action cards could use some tweaking. The prosperity track felt a bit too pricey for the points it gave us, and it might take a bit of time for new players to get a feel for what to do. But no worries, in no time you get the hang of it. You will not only know how to play, but also how to play well. But seriously, if you are stuck, just do what gets you points. Place those influence cubes. Also, some people might find the playtime a bit too long, 3 to 4 hours. Personally, I enjoy it, but yeah, it's not a quick game. But honestly, all these minor things pale in comparison to what the game offers. It's because of the games like World Order I play board games. If I could only back one Kickstarter this year, this would be it. I love it for the joy of every session and would recommend it to every board gamer, from Everdell fans to wargame lovers. There is something here for everyone. We need more games like World Order and more publishers like Hegemonic Project Games who are committed to faithfully representing their teams while making complex processes and dependencies easy to digest for the players. It's a huge achievement and I just can't wait for the Kickstarter campaign, and I highly encourage you to back it. The link is in the video description. I'm super excited, super hyped, and I can't wait to see all the stretch goals and expansions, just hoping they don't overdo it, because World Order is already an amazing game even as a prototype. Alright, that's it for today. If you made it to the end, please drop a like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next video on Weekly Game Night. Bye bye!